Hey guys, before I finish making my poison armor build, in couple days, I wanted to talk about Harbinger League, and why, in my opinion, it is one of the worst leagues ever. Hopefully this will be just a constructive criticism. Like many other veteran players, I played all the leagues in Path of Exile. I started playing Path of Exile before Anarchy League, which was the first league, well, along with Onslaught League, but Harbinger League is the first league that I'm very annoyed to play. There has been other pretty annoying leagues, for example, Beyond League was pretty fun, but after a while it became annoying to keep getting those Beyond monsters while leveling. And you couldn't really skip them, and they would slow you down a lot. But those monsters did give extra XP and more drops. Then there was Bloodline League, which didn't really give anything new, just made magic monsters stronger. And some mods like Necrovigil were extremely annoying. Next, Warbands Leagues was annoying only because Warbands were a bit overtuned and they had too much life at the start. While it was fun farming them, but the drops were pretty bad and it was very hard to get those special mods on the items. So at all times you had to do a lot of damage to be able to deal with them. Talisman League, I personally liked it a lot, but I really hated managing all those talismans. So I guess it wasn't that annoying. Then Parandus, Prophecy, Essence and Breach Leagues all were pretty good, and I mean they are not that annoying. Breach League of course is still one of the best leagues ever. Well, actually, Parandus League was a bit annoying because you couldn't really skip those enemies. But I mean, everyone wanted to get those coins and possibly get some cool unique item, or simply some cheap currency from Kadiro. And now the Harbinger League. At the start everyone complained that those enemies are a bit too weak and they drop too little. So they got buffed to make them more dangerous, stronger, more annoying, and drop more nothing. And yes, you can get some cool orbs from those shards, but what I mean is that, those shards are not direct reward. You cannot use them immediately. Personally, I never check what they drop. I just collect all the shards and deposit in my stash. So that one day you may be surprised that you got one exalt in your stash out of nowhere. But by the time that happens, you already probably got more than one exalt drop and way more currency. And let's face it, you don't want to be even picking all those shards. Most likely you only want a couple of those new shards. But the problem is not in those new orbs or even the shards. The problem is in how you encounter those enemies, their difficulty and the reward. I haven't heard anyone saying that they like new Harbinger enemies. And if you are like me and playing some strange builds that are not necessarily very strong, then Harbinger encounters become very frustrating. You cannot skip them, and if you try to skip them, you're most likely going to run into big pack of enemies and most likely die. And those Harbingers summons many strong enemies. Well, they usually get buffed by those totems. It would be more fun to see some unique enemies, unique bosses that drop some unique items. At the moment, Harbingers feel very rippy, unless you're playing pretty strong build. So many times it does feel like you are forced to play some certain strong builds. And you are forced to wait for them to be summoned. Also, they do chase you, sometimes in a very annoying way, which you cannot always predict. And for all that trouble, what do they drop? Just some shards that you pick up without even watching and then place in your stash without even thinking about it. And they do not drop any unique items, so there is no immediate reward. That's why encountering Harbingers feels more like annoyance than some kind of challenge and reward. Well, at least we got unique map. But I mean, how many people actually farm it? Probably not newer players. Personally, I still haven't got into Harbinger map, not even in tier 5. Mostly just because I place all those shards and forget. Well, maybe it is just me because I'm not actively trying to get into that map. And that is mostly because I am very annoyed by those regular Harbinger encounters. So I don't want to meet more of them into a map full of them. I know everyone has suggestions how to improve it, and I'm not saying that this would be the best way, but I would enjoy Harbinger more if I could skip them. For example, they would not summon enemies until you damage the Harbinger itself, and once you damage the Harbinger itself, then it would rapidly summon many monsters. So it would sort of act like a ghost that doesn't try to kill you and doesn't slow you down. But if you decided you are strong enough and want to spend some time killing it, then you could start hitting it and trigger a summoning process. Of course, you would probably need to drop his life to like a half or something, and he should be tanky so you would not accidentally trigger it. But at least that would give me an option to skip it or fight it. And if I'm not geared up properly, I can just skip it and not be annoyed by it. And the drops, of course, they need to drop more than just shards. Something that you can use immediately. Well, they don't have uniques tied to them. You can only get those special Harbinger uniques from unique map, which is fine I guess, but still, Harbinger encounters should drop something that you can use right away, or else it just doesn't feel like a reward. And it doesn't matter how much they buff those shard drops. You may not pick up 5 cents from the ground, but most likely you will not want to pick up $1 split into 5 cents from the ground. It just sort of makes me feel very poor if I am picking those shards. And I don't want the game to force me to feel poor. So that's my logic. Those are my rational thoughts. And emotionally I am very frustrated with Harbinger League. Most of the time I'm just chilling, doing my thing, and every time I meet Harbinger I am annoyed. I become angry, I start cursing, and it ruins my mood, and I hate being angry. So to avoid that, I usually don't play as much as I used to. So those are my thoughts about Harbinger League. What do you think? Am I exaggerating it? Or do you feel the same? Or maybe you have something to add? Oh, one last thing, I am not blaming GGG. Well, sort of not. I understand that releasing this expansion was a big deal, and the time was pressing them a lot. So I can understand that they did not have enough time to properly optimize Harbingers and the drops and all that stuff. But I do hope they will not do something like that in the future ever. And that's all. Thank you for watching and see you soon.